All right, y'all, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking US Bank and specifically their business cards, the US Bank Platinum card and the Cash Rewards card. I'm going to talk about some data points from a recent application, as well as some things that I think are priority items that you need to understand when it comes to working with US Bank and building a relationship with them. Now, when it comes to US Bank, there are a lot of mixed reviews, and I will talk about that briefly. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome to the channel. My name is Zach. I have a free community called Jet Set Credit in the description if you want to join that and learn all things credit, business credit, funding, and travel hacking, where we get to utilize our points and miles and travel for free in luxury all the time and much more often. That's where I talk about some things that I cannot talk about here on the channel. So I appreciate it. If you want to network, connect with people, that's where I'm able to connect with you guys outside the comment section. You can hit that in the description. Hit like and subscribe if you like the value I am providing, because today, I'm telling you, I'm going to bring you guys some data points with US Bank that I've not heard from anyone and that I have learned from working with people, from myself, from different data points that I have scoured the internet outside of just the data points that I've used to help people apply and or have success with US Bank. So we're going to drop it today. Let's jump into it. So first off, guys, US Bank, the reason why people want to build a relationship with US Bank is specifically for two of their business credit cards. Now, it's going to be the Cash Rewards card right here, which is 0% for 15 months, and the US Bank Platinum card, which is 0% for 18 months. Now, you might have seen in the past with some older videos that it could be up to 21 months, but for me, over the last 9 or so months, I haven't seen this change. So I don't think they're going to bring it back to 21 months. I think it's at 18 months, but also you never know. Now, the really cool thing about both of these cards, and specifically with these 0% cards, is it's not just 0% on purchases, it's 0% on balance transfers, which is huge. 18 months and 15 months is fantastic for 0% on balance transfers. And I have an opinion on where and how you should stack US Bank and build a relationship with them. Now, another thing with the US Bank is they own a company called Elan Financial. Now, Elan Financial is also a underwriter for a lot of mid-tier and small-tier banks. I want to say and preface this, if you have another card that is an Elan Financial backed card, I recommend that you pay that card down, or at least pay it down to 20% utilization or less, or pay it off, because I have spoke to different business bankers and relationship managers trying to get a little bit of an understanding of whether they have exposure to that utilization. Because if you guys are applying to business credit cards with certain banks, you want to make sure that your utilization is low, especially on cards in that particular bank. And so if Elan is an underwriter that they own, it sounds like that they are two separate underwriting, because US Bank will underwrite these applications with their credit cards and Elan will underwrite the applications that they are partnered with in other banks. But just to be safe, lower that exposure, because it will likely help with your application and approval if that is the case. Now, with US Bank as well, is they are a national bank and they also do not have branches in about 20 states, but you are not geo-restricted to opening an account with them or building a relationship with them. So what you can do is you can go online and you can set up a conversation with a business banker. You can call a branch and set up a conversation to be able to set up an account. Now, some people, when it comes to mixed reviews, you'll hear a lot of mixed reviews with, I don't really like US Bank. They're not very good. They don't provide good limits. I'm going to talk about why I think that is, and the data that I have pulled just from working with people and utilizing them myself. When it comes to that, though, some people will have personal relationships with US Bank in terms of personal credit cards. My thought is, what I believe is that you need to have a business banking relationship to get the best benefit out of them. So if you have a personal relationship and you apply to their business credit cards, you'll see all the time that people are receiving 2, 3, 4K limits, which is really low and not very helpful when you're getting a 0% card for 15, 18 months and a 0% balance transfer card. If you need to balance transfer more money off another business card, that doesn't really do much for you. So I highly recommend that you build a relationship with them on the business side versus building a relationship on the personal side. It doesn't hurt if you have a personal relationship. It never hurts to have a relationship and building activity with a bank. It always helps. Let's jump into why I think that. When it comes to some data points, specifically with a recent application, this application was a 25K approval on the Platinum card on the first try. There was not a first try 2 to 3K limit and then a credit limit increase. This is 25K out of the gate. Now, in this particular situation, they had all of their TransUnion scores, or all of their credit scores, were over 800. US Bank on the credit card side is going to pull TransUnion. From my understanding, they are going to pull Equifax from business lines of credit, personal loans, and some of their other lending products as well. So just be aware of that, but that could also change when it comes to the geographic region that you're in. Just understand that majority of the time on the credit cards, they're pulling TransUnion. In this data point, in this recent application, they had all their scores over 800. Of course, no derogatories. Utilization on the personal side, it was under 2%. They had total credit limits on the personal side over $100,000. Remember, guys, when you're applying to business credit cards, having comparable credit limits on the personal side, because they're still pulling personal credit, is really important because they see that you can handle those amount of credit limits responsibly. They're likely to give you a lot higher limits on the business side. Now, outside of that as well, they are inquiry sensitive. US Bank is inquiry sensitive. So this is something that you want to utilize at the beginning of a funding round versus the end of a funding round. If you have multiple inquiries, especially on TransUnion, you're probably going to get denied. So do it early on. In this scenario, they had 2 TransUnion inquiries. Both of those inquiries were over 12 months. That didn't really come into play. As long as you have inquiries that are over 12 months and not within the last 6 months, it can be helpful with your future applications. That is something to take note of. Now, I'm not going to talk about the business revenue numbers and the type of business it was. Those are some things I talk about in the free community. You can join that where I'm able to connect with you guys more and talk about those things a little bit outside of the platform. That is how we were able to achieve a 25K 0% approval. Now, with this though, they also had a bank account with US Bank for over a year. This is what I want to stress on, and this is what I haven't even heard anyone else talk about. This is what I have developed over working with people and doing a ton of research on my own and speaking to bankers at US Bank is you should build a relationship on the business side and have a business checking account for at least 6 months to 12 months or longer. Now, during that time, you do not have to utilize the bank account for massive cash deposits. If you want to make them your main bank, absolutely go right ahead. Or you can make them your main bank 60 to 90 days before you decide to apply, because then you're showing them activity in the bank account. But in this particular scenario, all they did was they chose a couple of times throughout the last year to do 6 to 8 weeks of consistent deposits of $100 to $200 a week. So they showed consistent deposits for 6 to 8 weeks, then they stopped those deposits. Then around 60 to 90 days before application, they hit those deposits again, and they had less than a few $1,000s in the account before application. So you don't necessarily need a lot, but as we know, if you do have a lot more money in the account, it always helps with approvals and the size of those approvals because you're utilizing that bank, you're building a relationship with that bank, and you are showing them activity. Now, when it comes down to US Bank applications as well, don't fret or don't freak out if you do not get instant approval. US Bank always manually reviews them in underwriting. It always takes 2 to 3 days, so you're not going to get an instant approval right away. They'll send you an email of the approval usually it's on the 3rd day. There's no need to really call reconsideration line right after if it's pending review. That's natural for US Bank to manually review them and then send you an email of the approval. With US Bank too as well, if you have a business that's under 1 year old, the maximum amount they'll give you at 0% is going to be 25K, or else they're going to require documentation. So if you ask for more or you end up wanting more, then they might require extra documentation. Or if you ask for a credit limit increase and you want more at that point, they'll ask for additional documentation. If you have a business that is over a year or 2 old, then you can receive anywhere from 25K to 50K at 0% without additional documentation. Some of the things I've seen though is really up on that $40,000 mark. They'll probably ask for additional documentation, but you guys don't always have to send in additional documentation if you don't want to. I'm just letting you guys know some of the data points that I have retrieved from different applications and working with the bank as well. So that is some of the data points that I have rummaged up for you guys that I wanted to provide you. Let me know if this was helpful for you. In my honest opinion, when it comes to US Bank, I think they're a very strategic bank when you want to get funding. This is not a bank that you initially operate with on a first funding round. This is a bank that after you have a first funding round or you get your first initial business credit cards, then you open up a relationship or a business checking account with US Bank and you season that relationship. With a lot of balance transfer credit cards, these are banks that you need to build relationships with. During those times, a second funding round or a third funding round, these are when you should be opening bank accounts with other banks, building relationships with them so that 12 months down the line when your 0% cards are up on your first initial funding round or your second initial funding round, you have the relationships built and you don't have to stress about applications. Now you can deposit money in there. Now you can season those accounts. Now you've built a relationship with them. And at least you know you're going to get a better value out of your applications. You're going to get better results out of the limits. This is my honest opinion with US Bank is they are a bank that you need to make sure you season and you build a relationship with for 6 to 12 months before before applying to those cards. Put those deposits in 60, 90 days before, or do some deposits in the meantime, 6 to 12 months in between. Build a relationship, and that is how I believe there are a lot of mixed reviews on US Bank, specifically because people are not putting some of these things into place. When it comes down to credit, credit is all about chess. This is not checkers. You need to think a few moves ahead and understand where you want to go, where you want to get additional funding, where you want to get access to capital, and what banks you're going to build relationships with. Hopefully that was really valuable for you guys. If you guys haven't, feel free to join the free school community. If you want to work with me directly, you can reach out to me or schedule a call with me. I help people with business funding. If they're interested, I help people with personal credit, business credit, and travel hacking. I love travel. As you'll see on this channel, I have tons of stuff on travel. It's amazing. I really appreciate you guys showing up. Hopefully this was great information for you to take your next steps with your business and scale your business. I will see you guys on the next video. Appreciate y'all. Peace.